So I'd like to introduce at this point a gentleman who's far more photogenic than I could have imagined. Yeah, I think each of you have a copy of the Ontario Lawyers Gazette at your seats. Please welcome to introduce Dr. Shavers, Courtney Benny.
I really want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to be here this evening. It's amazing what has transpired. I'd spoken with the U.S. Consulate about 10 days ago, and they told me that Dr. Shavers would be in town. I said, what an amazing opportunity to get her to connect with our community as we struggle to find our identity in terms of diversity, and more importantly, diversity from the economic side. And I looked to the team, and I asked Faith, and I asked my staff, and I said, is this possible? And they said yes, and I extended a call to Sylvia Searles, the mayor's assistant. Sylvia, if you could stand up for me, please. I said, we need a venue, and boom, we had a venue. I said, Carly, you know this, we need to do this. Can you reach into your Rolodex? And here you all are. So I want to thank you. I want to, there's so many individuals, and I'm not going to identify specifics. We'll get into that a little bit later. But just out of protocol, I've got to recognize the Consulate General of Jamaica, Mr. George Ramakan, and the Honorary Consulate for Haiti, Dr. Pierre, who's here with us. Dr. Pierre. And also I have to recognize my good friend and mentor for many years, Dr. Alvin Curling, former Speaker of the House. Before introducing Dr. Shavers, I'd like to just try and put things in context just for 2 minutes. It's very interesting when you talk about diversity. Whenever you talk about diversity, and I want to share a quick story with you. I was actually, I believe, in this same room about 3 weeks ago for a presentation to the Hispanic community by a gentleman who controls about a $30 billion budget for the city, and it was quite significant. And I raised the issue of diversity, and the response at that time was essentially, we have a diversity strategy, which is we've got some kids from the inner city communities that we provide employment opportunities. And I think one of the major barriers that we need to overcome is recognized, as being pointed out by both of our speakers today, that diversity is not essentially about social work. Fortunately for us, if you employ proper economic models and proper business practices, you're going to get the additional advantage that will come from that in terms of the social spin-offs. And so this is one of the reasons that we've gathered and brought you all together here today, is to really address that issue of economic opportunities. It's a model that's been successful. It's a model that's been deployed in the United States. It's a model that's been deployed in the United Kingdom. It's now popular with the European Union. Australia just implemented legislation in February of this year, implementing strategies for Aboriginal. But it's really important that we take responsibility. I want to introduce, just to recognize Ben Ham, the president of the Asian Chinese Business Association, Mr. Oren Ben, the president of CAMSI, the president of the Hispanic Business Association, Mauricio. These are all individuals that are working with businesses within our city. I think between the three of them, they've got about 1,000 small and mid-sized businesses that they represent. And their goal is to work to create opportunities at all levels of the supply chain for these businesses. And so in many ways, we hear about the roles of government, and we're not lobbying or trying to change in terms of getting government involvement. What we're looking to do is corporate Canada to step forward, to present the opportunity, but more important, there's always a social responsibility on each and every single one of us to be prepared for the opportunity when it presents itself. And fortunately for us, we've got institutions such as Ryerson University that has a great deal of training programs and other initiatives that immediately businesses are able to tap into to properly prepare themselves. And that's the goal. It's going to be a long-term process. I truly believe that Canada, and Toronto in particular, is a city that adopts a motto, diversity is our strength. Unfortunately, we've not discovered that diversity is our economic strength. And the moment that we begin to understand and deploy that, the potential economic spin-offs that's going to come from that, not just locally, not just nationally, but internationally, is going to place us as a beacon for the rest of the world. Because we're now going to be able to reach out and expand trade into many other areas that presently we're not able to tap into. So that's the essence, and over the next period of time, I'm sure that you'll be hearing a great deal more about what diversity in the supply chain means. But you didn't come here to speak to hear me speak. You came here to hear Dr. Shavers. Dr. Shavers actually began her career at Intel Corporation. What's interesting about during that period of time is her decision to share her success. And this is one of the elements about her. She has always been a giver, a contributor, and she started writing weekly articles where she was able to share her success to provide advice to other individuals within the community. President Clinton chose Dr. Shavers as the Undersecretary of Technology at the U.S. Department of Commerce. This was a significant position that Dr. Shavers was placed in, overseeing many of the technology developments for the United States government, not just nationally, but also internationally. Presently, she's the CEO of Global Smarts Inc., and she's been recognized as one of the most influential women in the world. I had a chance before, she actually got here very early, and I had a chance just to sit with her. She said, well, what am I going to say? And I said, just speak to us about yourself. Because what Dr. Shavers represents to us, and I hope that she speaks just a little bit about her background before she starts. I'm not going to get into that. What she represents for each and every single one of us is what is possible if you're prepared to commit yourself, to get the necessary education to do all of those steps. So without proper ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Shavers.